Hello, hello. I'm Andrew Shryock with the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley, and I'm here today to talk about locating resources. And specifically, my focus is going to be on locating electronic versions of literary resources designed to facilitate music research. Now, if you're anything like me at the beginning of any project, at the beginning of any paper, if you're simply looking to scratch some sort of itch of curiosity, you probably do something like this. You open your web browser, you go to your favorite search engine, and you just begin entering search terms. So let's do a hypothetical search here. My favorite composer and my favorite composition, the Ginastera Violin Concerto. You hit enter and away we go. Let's see what sort of search results come up and how they might intersect with my potential research project. Well, you can see straight away that these results are intended for a general web browser, a general user. We have recordings. We have this recording with the sheet music playing along. We have the actual sheet music. If I wanted to begin sawing away on this piece in my violin lessons, this page would be helpful. If I wanted to listen to the work before I went to my violin lesson, this page would be helpful, the Naxos recordings here. Of course, you could have anticipated that the Wikipedia entry on Alberto Ginastera would appear early on. As we begin to scroll down, the search results become a little bit less predictable. Here, for example, is a marketing page promoting a performance by Hilary Hahn with the Atlanta Symphony. Suffice it to say, these search results are not terribly useful when it comes to music research. Now, you may go back and you may change the search terms. You may look for specific scholars writing on Alberto Ginastera. You may just type in Alberto Ginastera scholarship, or you might begin looking for books or articles by adding PDF to your search results. I'm sure you've all done these sorts of things. But what I want to do is introduce you, or perhaps reintroduce you, to databases and search engines that are designed specifically for the task at hand, not for the general user looking to learn basic biographical or historical information about Ginastera or whoever it may be, but for the music researcher, for the individual pursuing a deeper, more detailed study of a work, of a composer, of a time period, whatever it may be. The place to start is not google.com or your favorite search engine, but actually the place to start, and I'm going to go back to my screen share here, is the electronic database page at the Berkeley Library website. The easiest way to get there is simply to type in Berkeley AZ. This is exactly how I get there. You hit enter, it's going to be our first search result, and we have a list of electronic databases to which Berklee College of Music subscribes and to which we as conservatory folks all have access. So there are 175 databases listed here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk about 10 of these or so, and I'm going to focus my discussion around the different types of sources that each one of these databases specialize in. So we'll talk about where to find articles, we'll talk about where to find books, we'll talk about where to find dissertations and theses, and then we'll talk about some sort of miscellaneous databases or literary sources that we can find using these databases. So I'll begin with articles. I think that's probably the most familiar to folks who have done this sort of search for electronic versions of literary materials. I think what's probably most familiar to us is this one here, JSTOR. Journal storage is what that stands for. And oftentimes what we'll do is we'll open JSTOR and we'll simply enter some bibliographic information to try and find the source that we're looking for. I guess now is the time to point out that we're not looking to identify sources at this stage. Hopefully we already have a list, a bibliography of sources that we're simply looking for electronic versions of. If you're still looking to identify sources, then what I recommend is actually going back to two other videos that I've made. One on the introduction to Rilem, and the second an advanced search strategy video for RILM. RILM is really one of the best places to start your research, is really one of the best places to identify the sources on a particular topic. But now what we're looking to do is to locate sources on a particular topic. And when it comes to articles, JSTOR is a great place to start, but it's not the only database that we should consider, because what we find out is if we begin browsing some of the music titles in JSTOR, we find out that JSTOR actually has limited coverage. So to give you an example, if you're looking for an article in 19th century music from the year 2017, JSTOR is not going to be terribly helpful. I don't need to get into the reasons why they don't have more issues beyond 2016, but to suffice it to say, anything from 2017 or later is going to be inaccessible. So what I want to do is actually introduce you to a couple of other sources that can help you identify articles and electronic versions of those articles. So the first is going to be down here in F. It's a wonderful database, a complement to JSTOR. It's called Fine Arts and Music Collection. And as the description says, it provides full text access to over 100 magazines and journals. So Fine Arts Music Collection is definitely one of the places that you want to check in addition to JSTOR. We also want to come down to the Music Periodicals database. That's going to be under M. Once again, the Music Periodicals database provides full text access for a variety of materials from 1874 to the present. In addition to Music Periodicals Index, Project Muse is very similar to JSTOR in the sense that it provides access to electronic versions of modern scholarship published in a variety of peer-reviewed journals. So these are the three great resources to think about in addition to JSTOR. And of course, actually, if you already have familiarity with RILM from identifying sources, you may also find or remember that some entries in RILM actually provide full text access. So this is an option as well. So when it comes to articles, the 5 places to go. JSTOR, sure, absolutely start there if you're familiar with it. The Fine Arts and Music Collection, the Music Periodicals Database, Project Muse, and then the RILM search results. And if you make it to the RILM search results, you also want to remember that you can search at the same time you're searching RILM. You can also search Music Index and RIPM as well. So when it comes to articles, that's no fewer than 8 options, 7 or 8 options for getting yourself a full text electronic version of the article that you're looking for. So now how about books? We don't have quite that many when it comes to books, but we also have some tremendous resources available that I want to introduce you to or reintroduce you to. We'll go back to the top of our list here. The first of these is probably the most limited in terms of its coverage. This is the ACLS Humanities eBook collection. It says it has 5,000 books, but not all of them are in music. But in any case, it has some very important musical and musicological texts contained in this resource. So you definitely want to spend at least a moment or two checking it out. The same goes for the Cambridge Companions to Music, which are also available in full text format through the Berkeley database subscription. So you can, for example, if you want to read, let's see what looks fascinating to me. Oh, this looks utterly fascinating. The Cambridge Companion to Electronic Music. You can simply click the link and you will have at your fingertips the full text version. So going back to our list, I want to call out 2 more that you should be familiar with. The last is probably the most important. This is HathiTrust. This is a website that brings together digitized versions of texts from a variety of scholarly sources and academic libraries. So you definitely want to search for full-length books in the HathiTrust digital library. You'll be very surprised at what you'll find there. And last but not least, Google does actually provide a search mechanism for research. It's simply called Google Scholar, and you get there simply by entering scholar.google.com, and you use it in exactly the same way that you use Google. So don't dismiss Google altogether, but exploit Google in the most efficient and effective possible way by going to scholar.google.com. So just finishing up, a couple of other places that I want to call your attention to. If you find yourself looking for a thesis or a dissertation, EBSCO Open Dissertations is tremendously helpful. You can search by title, you can search by author. So for example, let's look for anything by this individual, Elizabeth Seitz. Perhaps you've heard of her. You can see that this individual has published something on Die Schöne Müllerin, the context of early 19th century musical and poetic trends. That looks utterly fascinating. Let's see if we can't get it in full text. Here's a description, and here's a link. And voila, as they say in France, you can begin reading this seminal text on Die Schöne Müllerin. Here are the acknowledgments page. I wonder if we know anyone in this list. In any case, you get the idea. EBSCO Open Dissertations is the place to go for dissertations and theses. And I want to call two resources to your attention before I sign off. The first is just incredibly rich and robust, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it. This is the Music Online series, and it's a whole collection of resources and databases. As you can see here, it spans African American music reference, American music, classical music and video, classical music library. These are recordings, by the way. Reference materials, performance videos, scores, tremendously useful for contemporaneous music, for contemporary music, contemporary world music, jazz. There's just all sorts of material here. Opera videos, music periodicals in the 19th century, popular music. You do yourself a disservice if you don't spend some time browsing the Music Online collection, because it is so broad and so robust that it's worth spending a few minutes with when you're looking for electronic versions of literary sources, and as you can see, so much more. And the final thing that I want to call your attention to is a little sort of pet project of mine. I use it all the time, the Naxos Music Library. Perhaps you've listened to it, to the music that streams on the Naxos Music Library, but I wonder if you have also used the Naxos Music Library in the way that I'm about to show you. It is wonderful as a source of program notes. It is we have the violin concertos of Ginastera here. And what we can see actually is along the left-hand side, we can actually get a copy, a PDF copy of the booklet. So especially for new works or obscure works, works that are not often performed or well known, these program notes can be incredibly useful. And so Naxos provides us with scanned copies of those as well. So, as I promised, 10, 12, however many sources that we just went through, these are going to be tremendously useful for the music researcher. And I want to encourage you, by all means, go to Google and see what comes up when you begin typing in things like Ginastera scholarship. But at the same time, you also want to take advantage of those sources and databases that are designed to facilitate the exact sort of activity that you're undertaking. So, in short, go with what's comfortable. Sure, search Google, see what comes up. You are inevitably going to be surprised. But what I'm also hoping that you take away from this video is that you can be surprised and amazed and really satisfied with what you find in these other sources. The return on that investment using these electronic databases is, I would argue, going to be much higher than simply relying on Google alone. So I'll leave it there for today, but as always, if there are any questions, don't hesitate to be in touch, and I will hope to see you all very soon. Bye bye.